All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm back with a guest who hasn't been on the show for a few years, but I feel like you're sort of a regular listen for me. I've definitely been, your albums have been in rotation over the years since I first talked to you and sort of first stumbled upon your music. So it was very cool to hear you had a new record out. Just kind of closing out the year with a new Uncle Sinner album. And I figured the best way to start this off is if you want to introduce yourself and just give some background about what you do as an artist for people who aren't familiar with your music.
Okay. Hi, I'm Uncle Sinner. My real name is Mike, but that doesn't matter. I I do sort of like a revisionist folk music. It's all based in the blues or the roots of the blues, but with some like elements of, white American songs as well, like fiddles. And I mean, I play the banjo, although that's an African thing
Yeah.
as well. So basically, there is the odd original tune, but a lot of it is me taking traditional tunes and rewriting them and revising them so that I can sort of relate to
Yeah.
them a little bit better. And sometimes it's like exploring darker themes of death or even toxicity, but there's like a sort of hyper postmodern awareness to all of it. That sort of sounds very up my own arse. I don't mean to sound that way, but
No,
you
I
know,
like how you said sometimes there's a death theme because it seems like that kind of permeates a lot of your whole discography more than just sometimes. But
yeah, sure. But there are like other things. I mean, like there's
yeah,
there's a lot of songs that are about relationships and struggles within, or just the sense of dread and utter helplessness. So it's out in time for Christmas.
yes, very very cheery,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
holiday spirit. Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
how long has this one been in the works? Because I was trying to think of when your last record came out, and it's been what, at least 3 years by now, right?
It was 5 years ago.
5 years.
It
Okay,
was
there we go. Yeah,
like Trouble of This World was released in March of 2020. So right around the time when the world shut down.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The album came out and then a week later everything was shut down due to the pandemic. And before that was another 5 years for Let the Devil In. So that's about like how often they come out. It started, I wasn't sure that I was going to do another one, but then a song sort of drifted into my head in late April or early May, and I was
Okay.
like, because I didn't have like I like to have like at least one original song. Like Uncle Sinner's most popular song is an original tune called "Let the Devil In." That's sort of like a Tom Waitsy
Yeah, yeah.
exploration of like what sin can mean in a secular context. Uh, Again, that sort of sounds too thinky, but anyway, so now I had a song, and that I have like I had over 5 years, I get enough songs that I'm interested in doing, that I had just enough material for another album, and people, you kind of wanna. Yeah, I never know if there's going to be another album. So every time I do something, I'm like, oh, this is like this is as good as I can possibly do. And maybe it won't happen again. And
Yeah.
and to be okay with that. But I, if this is the last one, and I'm not saying that it is, but if it is the last one, I think I'm pretty proud of it. And I think it's as good as I can do.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good mindset to have. I think when you've just released something. I mean, it would suck to
Mhm.
be the opposite, where you put this out and been, oh shit, I'm not really a fan
Yeah,
of this.
just like releasing progressively shittier albums. I
Yeah,
mean, that is kind of the progression for like artists as they age, generally, not universally, but
yeah,
generally. And
yeah. There are a
and
few examples of people,
yeah,
bucking that trend, but for sure it is a thing.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah,
yeah. People really liked my second album a lot. They didn't love like Trouble of This World as much, and that's okay. Like those were the songs that I needed to make at the time, and I
yeah,
I understand that. And it's not always going to resonate with people, and there are things that I would do differently, of course, but if this is to be my end, then I would have it be such an end as to be worthy of remembrance, as
for
they say.
sure, for sure. Yeah. Well, and one thing that I thought of while you were talking here about sort of having the material to put out a new record. Obviously, like you said at the beginning, you're taking a lot of traditional songs, reworking them. You
Yeah.
do have originals kind of spattered in here and there, but what
Hmm.
you're doing is a little different from the typical person I interview on the show, where it's 95% original music. And so I imagine the process of you know, a completely unrelated artist putting their stuff together for a record is a little different because you're not only, reworking these songs, but you're sourcing them in the first place, right? You're finding these songs that appeal to what you do. So I mean, when you're looking for some of these old songs, which some of them are, 100 years old, maybe more in some cases, how
Hmm.
do you determine which one is going to fit your style? Like, what are you looking for, I guess, with these traditional songs, in order to be an Uncle Sinner remake or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, it's hard to describe, but like you kind of know it when you find it. And so some of the songs are songs that I've known about for years. Like Keep Your Lamp Trimmed and Burning. Like
Yeah.
I listened to Blind Willie Johnson when I was 14 years old. I've lived with that song for a long time, and I've even lived with that arrangement since my, early 20s. I was playing it that way. I just never really recorded it that well
Yeah.
before. And but there are other ones that, I don't listen to like the sort of archival folk music a lot, but know, my son does, and so like he sent me everybody wants to know how I die, and that's how I learned about it. And as
Oh,
soon as I
cool.
heard it, I was like, okay, this needs to be expanded upon. This is perfect. I can sing this. I can play it. I've got ideas for the banjo. I got ideas for a slide guitar on this. And so it only had like one verse, and I added verse two and verse three, and like that was the process
Okay.
there.
Well, and that one, I
Um,
mean, just the song title alone seems like it fits your whole thing too, right? I mean, it's a perfect
y-
Uncle Sinner song title, at least.
yeah, and the original artist would have meant like how I died, like this is like someone speaking to you from beyond the grave of like,
Right.
where were all these people when I was dying? But I really like this sort of present tense. I left it in as the present tense because, I really like that idea that we are constantly like we're going dormant or dying and then being reborn. I mean, it's part of life in Winnipeg, right? Like right now we're shut down and dormant, and we've
Yep.
got, evergreens, but that's about it. And but then, spring will roll around and mm,
Well,
life happens again.
that brings up an interesting question then is does being here contribute to the type of music you play? Because there's a bleakness, I mean, for a large part of the year to Winnipeg. I love this city. I'm sure you do too, but there's definitely a dark period that we're sort of in right now, or we're heading right into. Does that kind of vibe contribute to sort of the tone of what you're doing or what you're looking to play?
It does, although in this case I wasn't as inspired by like that fallow period that is winter, that sort
Yeah.
of dormant, like let's get cozy and rewatch Twin Peaks or whatever vibe that we get, because I started it in the album in the spring, and part of like my mental health routine is to just go out across the street. There's a beautiful trail that winds along a creek for a couple of kilometers, and it's all wild, and there's different things that bloom at different times,
Okay.
different wildflowers. Like live in a very fertile place,
We do.
and so the recording process, I'd be doing like a lot of electric guitar at first, and that would correspond to like certain things that were blooming, and then and playing electric guitar, I ended up ripping like one of my fingernails, and I can hear it on the recording. I'm not going to tell you where, but if you listen close, you'd be like, oh, I wonder if that's where he ripped his fingernail, which meant that I couldn't play banjo. So the banjo,
Sure.
came along a couple weeks later, and that corresponds with like a different sort of bloom, and like the percussion happens throughout, but it was just this process. And like even like into late fall, you still have things that are blooming, like yellow ox eye or whatever. I'm not a botanist, but yeah, like it was great to just like there was all these like cycles in the album, and they sort of corresponded with different things that were blooming at the time, and once everything was finished and I'm mixing, there's still there's still life out there. Like there's still even in November, when
Yeah.
things are pretty much done on the album, you get the odd like little tree in the undergrowth that still has green leaves, and I just chuckle to myself about the impetuousness of youth, But like everything's kind of shut down now, and it's all sort of retreated, and the album's done, and I don't know, it just seems fitting. It just
Yeah.
seemed like to fit within the life cycle of a season in Manitoba.
Do you think, I mean, I don't know if this is even an answerable question, but do you think it would sound different if you lived somewhere else? If you lived somewhere that didn't have such a drastic sort of life and death cycle of seasons, do you think that would
Yeah.
have affected it? I mean, like, I don't know if you lived in the desert or something where it was just hot all the time and there
I
was,
think it would affect me so that I wouldn't be as preoccupied with, death and rebirth, which is also, I'll say tangentially like r- relapse and recovery,
sure, sure.
that there's that in it as well, just going fallow for a while, and it's not always a good thing.
Yeah,
But it's something that happens to us in winter. I don't
definitely.
know.
Definitely, yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
this all makes sense. It's clicking in my head anyway. Obviously, a lot of the material you're doing has very spiritual background. I mean, a lot of this music from back then that you're playing, and just a lot of that old blues and associated genres in general is very church based and very
Mm.
in a nice bleak way, right? A nice depressing kind of the devil shows up a lot and that kind of stuff.
Sure,
Is
yeah. It's right on
is
the cover. Yeah.
yeah, right, exactly, right. So, I mean, how do you sort of feel about that? Because that style of music, I mean, obviously there's still religious music of all different religions that's existed in various styles over the decades, and but this stuff is a very specific, very like almost God-fearing kind of vibe that they had at the time these were made. Why do you
Yeah.
think that stuff is very, very I don't want to say stuck, but like specifically associated with one era? Because you don't hear a lot, I mean, maybe I'm just listening to the wrong stuff, but I don't hear a lot of stuff that has that kind of darkness to it as far as people talking about their faith these days, at least
Hmm.
not so starkly.
Yeah. Well, certainly like some of the older stuff that I did, like When Jesus Comes, is very much like nunchuck Jesus coming to kick ass,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
and there's a sort of insane glee to that if you're not if, like I'm not coming from a Christian space.
Right. No, either am I. And listening to
Um,
it, I get it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but on this one, like I start out with hymns, but like those hymns say things like, he lives and does within me dwell. So like we think that it's thinking of God as like something that's inside of
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
like whatever that is. Whatever, you could call it the light, or if you're a Quaker, or I don't know, just love, or kindness, and just the connection between people. Like, so that's I think the hymns on this song mostly speak to a kind of secular faith.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, I think that's what I like about some of it too, is that there is like I mean, not that I'm some expert on Christian music, so I'm definitely not, but I
no,
feel like a
yeah.
lot of more modern stuff has this really obnoxious "we're not worthy" kind of thing, where it's all just praising, whereas a lot of this older stuff has the human element, like someone is struggling, and then their faith is referenced in that context rather than
Ye-
just let's just be glorifying this dude forever. Like I think the struggle part
Yeah.
of it is what appeals as a non-religious person. Like, I didn't grow up with any
Hmm.
of that stuff, and I think that in a lot of genres of music, I that stuff resonates more with me. The people talking about spiritual issues from a human perspective rather than from a just glorifying whatever deity perspective.
Yeah, and I do make little changes. They're subtle, but they're meaningful to me. Like the last song is "The Dying Californian," and the actual line, it's about, this person is dying. He's about to be like buried at sea, presumably with some cannonballs in the winding sheet to like weigh the body down. And the line in the song, according to the Shape Note hymn book, like there's a hymn book, like
Yeah.
Antioch, Rocky Road, and Dying California, and they're all in that book. Although Rocky Road, I changed a lot of the lyrics to, but in Dying Californian, there's a sense of like almost like a same-sex relationship of like
Okay.
intimacy. and you're going to miss me in your birth, and my body will be underneath the ocean's briny surf. And the original line later on is like, I know that he does nothing wrong, like capital H, like Jesus.
Yeah, yeah,
Jesus does nothing wrong, so I'll be all right. And I changed it to like, I know that I've done nothing wrong, which could be crazy. Like that could be a crazy thing to say, in the sense of like, I like everything I do is gold, but in the sense of this particular song, I thought like the love that I showed is, there's nothing wrong with my love, especially if there's like sort of homoerotic overtones in that,
sure.
like that makes it interesting to me. And even though like I'm just like allied with that, and that's not part of my
Yeah.
life, like I can still relate to the sense of like I loved who I loved and I didn't do anything wrong and I don't regret loving the people I loved, like and plus, I love the fiddle at the end. It sounds like a Civil War hymn or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and I think that's interesting too because the what you just described is probably even an older song format than what you're doing with the spiritual stuff, right? That idea
Yeah.
that idea of love and everything, and that's those songs have existed forever too. So I mean, it's
Hmm.
kind of almost predating the the Jesus stuff by taking it in that
Yeah.
direction. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I was looking at the I was going to say liner notes, but I don't have a physical copy yet. I will buy one. But I was looking online and it's
Well, if
just
I'm ever in like fucking St. James, I'll just drop one off. I
cool,
think
cool.
that's you're roughly there. I don't want to
Yeah,
dox your location.
I'm in that
Yeah.
vicinity. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I noticed that you on a few of the songs you've got someone playing bass that was not obviously here doing that.
Uh-huh.
So what's
Yeah.
the story there? I mean, is this someone you've worked with before or?
Yeah, that's Slack Eye Slim. He does like skeleton Western music, very spaghetti
Yeah,
Western,
yeah.
a skull with a cigarette playing on top of a tumbleweed, sort of sepulchral voice to him. And he and I, like, he's part of like the death country subgenre that I get lumped into sometimes.
Yeah.
And we ended up doing a benefit together for Navajo and Pueblo people who are really hard hit by the pandemic. And so I met him that way, and we just became friends. And I ended up one time I you know, drove up from Phoenix, Arizona, up to his place. He lives near the Four Corners,
Okay.
so I call it Four Coffins, Colorado, because he's on the Colorado side of the Four Corners. And I spent some time with him. We went into like southeastern Utah, and we just became friends. And he played bass on the Star Thistle album,
Okay, cool,
and
cool.
and he played he plays bass on like six or seven of the songs on this album, and he's got a good intuitive sense of what the song needs.
Like, I guess the reason I'm curious about his involvement in it is because the rest of the project seems very much like a one man show. You know, I mean, you're playing everything, you're singing, you're involved in the
Mm,
production side, and then so you're. I know that he's not the only person who has contributed to the
hmm.
record, but he's on a lot, like you said, a lot of the songs. How do
Yeah.
you sort of incorporate someone like that, especially if they're not recording with you, um, in Winnipeg, right? I mean, how do you sort of fit that into the whole overall sound? Just because
You know,
everything else is so you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just one of the gifts of technology is that we can do that. We can collaborate with people, and I can just send him the file, and he can
Yeah.
play along with the file and send the bass track back to me. Like it is not all me. Like like two people from a choir I sing in, add
Yeah,
harmonies on a couple of the songs. Person I work with added drums on a couple of tracks, which is very exciting for me.
that is cool. Yeah.
It's fun. It was super fun to do. It's like My Babe was very hard to do, but very fun to do. Uh, because I ended up doing it all sort of backwards. Normally, you lay down the drums first and the bass, and then you like
Yeah,
the instruments. But like, basically started with the banjo, and so everything had to be sort of in time with a metronome, or it was going to go off the rails. Um, anyway, so yeah, and fiddles and all that. But I don't know. It was just I work with. They're mostly outsiders, apart from Jeremy on fiddle. Like it's all outsider music. Slack Eye Slim, like he does have a following and
yeah,
fans, but we're not part of the music industry. We don't make a living from it. We just do it because we love to do it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, you know, not saying that people who aren't professional don't also do it because they love to do it. It's just like we're just not inside the industry really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Where can people hear this? I mean, obviously it's out at the time we're recording this, it's out in the world now. And as you know, there's millions of places people get music these days. Where would you want someone to find this record if they were to check it out?
I mean, I'm perfectly happy with people just streaming it on whatever they use for streaming, and
Okay.
if you don't pay for Apple Music or Spotify, I mean, it's out on YouTube. You can stream it. You can do all that stuff for free as if you're willing to put up with commercials. They can download it from my Bandcamp site. You can pay for it or you can not pay for it.
Yeah.
It does it's up to you really. And if people want like a physical thing, like I had 100, I think, digipacks made, and you know, so and it was a little trickier this time because I had to pay for royalties.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because a few of them were, recent enough, like, Gillian Welch, deserves to get songwriting credit for all the verses that she added to Didn't Leave Nobody But the Babe. And, ditto John Lee Hooker, and My Babe was a Willie Dixon tune. He wrote that. So like I have to pay the songwriters. I haven't done that before because in the past I've just used stuff that's so old that it's in the public domain.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a weird thing to think about. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
yeah,
a lot of these people are doing similar things to what you're doing too, right? Like, I mean, they're taking an old song and adding to it, like you said, with those verses on the one song, and then you're
yeah,
adding to that, and so it's kind
yeah,
of a cool, weird little like game of telephone with a lot of these old songs where it just gets. I mean,
for
someone
sure.
might hear
Yeah,
your cover
yeah,
and then 20 years from now, and then do their own version of yours, and I kind of like that
yeah.
these.
But they won't pay me. No.
No, no, they won't. Probably not. Probably not. Obviously at the time we're recording this, it's the end of December, coming up very soon. Do you have anything planned in the new year as far as shows or things like that to sort of get the word out about this record?
Not really. No. I mean, if I have this like idiot philosophy, you want to hear it?
Sure, let's go for it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like if it's good, people will find it. I know that's an oversimplification, and I know that there's lots of good music that doesn't get found by people, and even in popular media, guys like Nick Drake didn't get any respect
Sure.
when he was alive, and now we realize like how amazing he was. Um, but yeah, in general, like I will probably in the new year play a show or two. Like sometimes the guy at King Cobb really likes me.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I saw you there the first time,
so
I think, and that was yeah, it's a
yeah.
cool venue for what you do. I think it fits the whole style.
Yeah, but maybe later on in the, more towards spring, I think, because you're playing right beside the door, and like
Yeah.
the door doesn't close properly, and so you get these blasts of like January air. It'd be sort of I don't know. I think I'd rather play there in April,
Yeah, that
but
makes a lot of
we'll
sense.
see. Yeah.
If people are hearing about you for the first time on this podcast, what's the best way to find
Mhm.
out what you're doing as far as, potential upcoming shows or new music? I
Okay.
mean, they could hear it the day it comes out, they could hear it 5 years from now. So yeah, where would you direct them?
I would direct them to at Uncle Sinner Music on Instagram. I use Instagram far more than any other social media. Like I am on Facebook and
Yeah,
I'll announce stuff on Facebook, but uh I tend to use Instagram more because that as a musician it has more like other musicians where I can, I see stuff that interests me or other artists, I just I find it's a good. And I'm not trying to plug it, like yeah, if it's not, sorry, I sound like a fucking commercial, but anyway, that's the one that I use the most for whatever reason.
okay, that's the best
Even if
place.
even if it sucks, it's the one I use the most.
No, fair enough, fair enough. I'm on there a
Yeah,
lot too, more than I'd like to be,
yeah,
but yeah, I get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Are the previous albums are they still in print? Like, I mean, I'm thinking just in terms of the physical copies, are because I know there's probably a lot of people who like what you do, who I'm assuming also like physical media.
hmm
Are those still floating around, or are you sort of running low on a lot of them?
Um, well, I had because people really liked the second album, I had 25 more made when
Oh yeah,
I had this one made. So like there's now, 22 copies of Let the Devil In for sale, and those you can only buy through Bandcamp. Um, I the other ones, I think Bandcamp might have those as sold out. That's not to say that I don't have a couple of copies,
Yeah, yeah,
but those are situations where, like, if you really want a copy, just drop me a line and I'll see if I can locate one for you.
cool. And then obviously they exist, like you said, on streaming, and so people can still hear them even if they don't find a. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can always download them on lossless wave file on, if that makes sense to people, on Bandcamp, and then you could burn your own CD, and it would be just as good.
yeah,
And you just wouldn't have like the art or liner notes, like the little booklets actually are what end up costing a lot of money. Like a booklet will cost you like $5 per CD when the CD itself and the cover is $5. So
yeah, yeah. But that's where the important stuff is. I mean, that's like especially with something like what you're doing,
yeah,
where a lot of these songs have this history, right? Getting like, just saying it's a traditional song or saying who,
yeah.
that's important, I think. But I mean, a lot of people will just happily listen to something without having that. So,
Mm. Well, and my Bandcamp page really, I try to be very conscious of saying like these are the sources that I use for that, because like otherwise I'm appropriating someone else's work, like even if it is a traditional song,
yeah,
my version might be a blend of, this player and this player's version, and plus, some original touches of my own. But yeah, I always try and give credit where where possible.
yeah, for sure. And I guess the last thing I wanted to ask you too is about this new record, the cover art. I mean, like, you were just talking about liner notes and
Yeah,
album covers and the importance of that stuff. It's a very striking image. I think it fits
yeah.
the music very well. I guess what goes into sort of on your end determining what you're going to use for a cover for a record like this.
Yeah, so I didn't have any ideas for an album cover, and but I have like a hobby of driving around Manitoba and sometimes Saskatchewan and poking around like abandoned houses, where not to steal anything, but just to take pictures as like a sort of
Yeah.
imaginary archaeology. Anyway, so I was aware. So my son said, "Well, what about these pictures that you'd taken like at this former homestead in Grahamdale, which is like up in the northwestern Interlake?" This guy named Armand Lemise has all these concrete sculptures, and many of them are smashed
Okay.
and vandalized, but a few of them are intact, and they're all very interesting. And he was another outsider artist. He was just doing it for the sake of doing it, and he was told actually that he tried to donate it, and he was told that his work had no cultural value, which was pretty brutal.
That's harsh, yeah.
Anyway, so like Dylan, showed me a couple pictures I'd taken of the devil sculpture and stuff like that, and I was like, yeah, we should do that, but we should do that at night with a torch. And so I had to figure out how to make a torch so that we could light it, so there would be darkness in the background, and uh, that's how that happened. We ended up having to like it didn't happen till like 11:30, because even a couple of hours north of Winnipeg in July, it takes
It's
quite a while to
bright,
get
yeah.
dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I like how you
Just
I like how you DIY'd that and also did it in a very analog kind of way. It works for sure for your whole aesthetic.
yeah, and it's film, like it's film
Yeah,
pictures,
yeah,
and it's just like a broom handle and a cotton rag that I've stapled and poured kerosene on, and we didn't have a lot of time because that rag burns up
I
pretty
bet.
quick. So, we did our best, and we ended up getting usable photos, so it worked out.
Very cool.